Happy New Year, Savvy Expats! So entering the new year, we're going to be talking about the Philippine travel updates for 2022. Of course, the Philippines is still closed off to foreign tourists, but I'll update you guys as soon as that changes.
Sorry.
So, let's start with nationals that are allowed into the country. Since September of 2021, the Philippines began issuing vaccine certificates, which can be found at VaxCert.ph. So, if you're arriving from abroad, be aware that the Philippines are recognizing these vaccine certificates or passports. More specifically, under Resolution 154E, starting January 1st of 2022, the Philippines will be accepting the following countries' vaccine certificates: Armenia, Belgium, Canada, France, Germany, Kuwait, New Zealand, Oman, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and the United States of America. And other proofs of vaccination from foreign countries are allowed as long as it's approved by the IATF. For those wondering, IATF is a task force organized by the Philippine government for the pandemic. But as for low-risk countries, or otherwise called Greenless countries, here they are. As they are shown on the screen, bear in mind that you must be within these Greenless countries within the past 14 days. And so these are the Greenless countries from January 1st to January 15th. Unless you have been in one of these countries for the past 14 days, you are not in a Greenless country. Now, if you're fully vaccinated and in a Greenless country, here are the protocols for you. First off, present a negative RT-PCR test taken within 72 hours prior to departure from the country of origin. Second, you're required to undergo facility-based quarantine until the release of your negative RT-PCR test taken on the third day. So after your test taken on the third day, you'll have to wait until a negative result until you can move on to the next step. And third, after which, they shall be required to undergo home quarantine until their 10th day, with the date of arrival being the first day. Now, as for eligible unvaccinated individual from greenlisted countries, here are the protocols. As for the first, same deal, negative test taken 72 hours before your departure. And secondly, here's where it differs from the vaccinated. Once you're in a facility-based quarantine, instead of taking a test on the third day, you'll have to wait for a negative result after taking the RT-PCR test on the 7th day. So just bear that in mind. Lastly, you'll be required to undergo a home quarantine for 14 days. So if you are unvaccinated, you will have to undergo a longer quarantine. And if you have a child 3 years old or younger, they're of course exempted from all of these procedures unless they are showing symptoms. And remember, when quarantining upon arrival, only accredited hotels from the Department of Tourism are accepted. You can find this under the quarantine facility list under the One Health Pass website. As you can see, as I'm scrolling, this is the list of hotels you are strictly allowed to stay in upon arrival. Now, as for you OFWs out there, you can find the OWA accredited list by clicking on the OWA accredited button. And also, depending on your port of entry, that will determine where you will quarantine. For example, if you arrive at Naya Manila Airport, then that means you'll have to quarantine in Manila. If at Clark Airport, you must quarantine in Clark, not in Manila. Now, what if you're found positive during your quarantine? Well, upon completing your quarantine, the Bureau of Quarantine, or BOQ, will issue you a certificate indicating your vaccination status. But moving on, remember that all other countries that are not categorized in the green list or red list countries are in the yellow list. So the majority of you guys watching this right now are likely in the yellow list. So you'll be following different procedures from what I mentioned earlier. For example, US individuals, Canada, United Kingdom, and Australia are all yellow list countries. So let's get into the protocols for yellow list countries, starting with the vaccinated. First off, just like the green list countries, 72-hour negative test prior to departure from the country of origin. Secondly, upon arrival, you will be quarantined for a minimum of 5 days, with the swab test being on the 5th day. And third, regardless of your negative test result, you will be quarantined for 14 days. Now, if you're vaccinated, partially vaccinated, or your vaccination can't be verified, you will again be required a 72-hour negative test before leaving your country of origin. Upon arrival, you will undergo 7 days of hotel quarantine, with the test being taken on the 7th day, and then 14 days of home quarantine after being released from hotel quarantine. Now let's talk about who's eligible to enter the Philippines. First, those who can present proof of Philippine citizenship. Second, dual citizens. And as for you dual citizens, you can present your Philippine passport and your foreign passport. But if you don't have your Philippine passport, you can present your dual citizenship documents. The third eligible individual to enter the Philippines is former Filipinos. These are Filipinos who have been naturalized in a foreign country. Keep in mind that if you're a former Filipino that still has your Philippine passport, that is not eligible. And of course, that's because you're no longer a Filipino. Another thing to remember is that former Filipinos can travel to the Philippines through a balikbayan visa. And if you're a former Filipino, you can get this visa upon entry in the Philippines. The balikbayan visa is also free, you just have to ask immigration. In addition, the balikbayan visa is valid for 1 year. And if you're traveling with a foreign spouse and children, they can both get a free balikbayan visa, which is also valid for 1 year. And as a former Filipino, you need to present your foreign passport plus your Philippine passport, whether old or valid, or your foreign passport plus your authentic Philippine birth certificate. For former Filipinos traveling with a foreign spouse, the foreign spouse must present their foreign passport plus marriage certificate. For a foreign child, foreign passport plus a birth certificate. Another type of individual that can enter into the Philippines is a native foreign spouse not traveling with the Filipino spouse. And yes, a native foreign spouse, not a former Filipino. Some of the things you'll need is a 9A visa from a Philippine consulate. Your passport must be valid for at least 6 months and beyond. You must have a return or onward ticket. And in addition, the Filipino spouse must be already in the Philippines at the time of your intended arrival. Now, what is the immigration requirement for a foreign spouse? That is, you must present an authentic marriage certificate. Moving on, there's another set of individuals that can enter the Philippines, and that is temporary visitors in the Philippines. And these are the foreign nationals that are allowed. On October 5, the Bureau of Immigration provided the guidelines for temporary visitors. And these guidelines are more strict. First off, Philippine consulates abroad won't issue visas for temporary visitors. You must have a 9A visa and an entry exemption document. In addition, the reasons for visiting must only be for business, humanitarian, or meritorious reasons. Let's talk about foreign nationals that are allowed to travel into the Philippines but must have a valid and existing visa. First, Special Resident Retirees Visa or holders of SRRV visa. The SRRV visa can be applied under the Philippine Retirement Authority. The website is pra.gov.ph. The other set of foreign nationals allowed are holders of Philippine immigrant visas, holders of 13A, 13B, 13C, 13D, 13E, and 13G visas. The other set of foreign nationals allowed are accredited foreign government and international organization officials. Next, another set of foreign nationals allowed are foreign airline crew members. Another set allowed is seafarers with a 9C visa. Now let's talk about the standard health protocols. First, a 72-hour negative test prior to departure from the country of origin. Second, you must have a One Health Pass registration if you're going to Manila, Clark, Davao, Laog, Bohol, and Subic. Third, a pre-booked hotel for 6 days for the vaccinated and 8 days for the unvaccinated. Fourth, use the Trace mobile app for scanning QR codes when going through the airports. This is for contact tracing. Also, if you're a Philippine airline passenger, you must fill out the PAL passenger form 24 hours before your flight. Now, if you're flying through a foreign airline, you must register through padlab.ph for testing. Now let's talk about protocols at the quarantine facility or hotel. First, you must present the One Health Pass QR code to confirm the check-in. Second, at day 3, 5, or 7, you must present the QR code for RT-PCR testing. Step 3 is register for ICIF and pay for the swab test. If you test negative, you need to present your QR and BOQ certificate to the hotel reception to check out. If you test positive, you'll get medical treatment or be admitted into a hospital. And the last thing I'll show you guys is the red list countries. As you can see, there are 6 countries, all from Africa except for Spain due to the new variant. And if you have been in any of these countries within the past 14 days, you will not be allowed to enter the Philippines. That is, unless you are a Philippine citizen, regardless of your vaccination status. Anyways, so there you have it, Savvy Expats. Those are the Philippine travel updates for 2022. Let me know if you have any questions, and also leave a like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe if you want to support the channel. So thank you for watching, Savvy Expats, and I'll see you in the next video. God bless.